Approximately 1 in 500 people in South Africa are born intersex. Intersex is a general term used for a variety of conditions in which a person is born with a reproductive or sexual anatomy that doesn't seem to fit the typical definitions of female or male.
When you're born intersex, when you're born with both genders, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you.
When you're born as an intersex person, the fundamental rule that the medical fraternity has is that it tells you that you are the only one. There's no one else like this. So that's why we need to fix you.
Bebethatha balahla nasesigangeni kuthiwa izilwane zasendle zizodla or baphonswe emfuleni or bashaywe ey'ntabeni bafe ngaleyo ndlela leyo.
At this hospital on the 1st of April in 1984, a couple welcomed a baby into the world. The family initially named the child Matsidiso, which means the one who brings comfort. But as soon as they saw the baby's unusual appearance, the name changed to Dimakadzo, which means to be surprised.
And they called me the following day when I was sober in the morning, when they called me and they explained, bang explained the man, ki se siamo se se tholahetseng ko Dimakatso. Yo, it was something that came to me not exactly as a shock or what is ke mo ileng ha tswa honor khante ei Modimo ojwa.
Dimakadzo had been born with ambiguous genitalia, meaning her external genitals weren't clearly male or female. This is one of many intersex variations. Doctors suggested genital surgery to normalize the look of the organs.
They said for me, I had to put trust in them. After
spending a year and a half in hospital under observation, the surgery was performed. The family doesn't know the exact details of the operation, except that the male organ was removed. As a result of the surgery, the little girl spent the first several years of her life in hospital, undergoing more intrusive surgeries because of complications.
The toys that I demanded when coming back home, I wanted a bike, a bicycle, I wanted marbles, I wanted a soccer ball, I wanted guns. You know, it was just only boys' toys. And my mom said, I always remembered with toys that you wanted and how you wanted me to dress you up as a child. I always felt like, I think the doctors really took the wrong tool.
Dimakadzo says she has no uterus, no ovaries. She realized something was wrong when puberty hit, but none of the developments that usually happen to girls occurred. Growing up, her genitals were never private, she says. She was also sometimes subjected to inspections from relatives.
Actually, most of my mom's family, they're the ones who always poke on me, taking me to the toilet with their friends. Maybe if you were my aunt, and my aunt will come with her friends and taking me to the bathroom, like, let's see. But then I believe with them, it's what they didn't think that an operation was done, maybe one was removed, you know? They wanted to see, even if one was removed, how do I still, like, is it like any other woman's private parts? Does it look like, since they've taken out or they've hidden the penis? I think people were always curious with me.
Eventually at 21, her parents told her the truth. And since then, it's been a long journey of trying to find answers and grappling with the identity chosen for her. Her mother is now late.
And I'm grateful to my pops because he's learning every time. But then I always believe that my dad, with the old going in and out hospital every time, the surgeries and what. I think somehow he believed that after all the surgeries, I'm just gonna be a normal girl, and somehow, not, to be honest, I did try. They might not know or probably have not seen it. I did try to be the girl that probably he wanted. But that's not who I am. I was not even born that way. I can't force myself to be something that I'm not.
In Cape Town, Nthabiseng Mokoena, who identifies as genderqueer, was born with partial androgen insensitivity syndrome. Androgen insensitivity syndrome occurs when babies are born with the typical genetic pattern in boys, but their bodies are unable to respond to hormones like testosterone. People with partial androgen insensitivity syndrome may have external genitalia that appear female, male, or ambiguous.
I just knew that I was different because that is what my mother told me, is that you're different and you're special. That's enough. But not just different, understanding that this difference can be misunderstood in the general community. So you're different and you're special at home. The minute you go out into the community, don't tell anyone.
Nthabiseng grew up in Colini in the northwest.
I was born at home, which was the biggest blessing of my life, because being born at home meant that I escaped the clutches of the medical fraternity, who at any stage will say, let us have surgery on this child. So I was born at home, and of course the midwives didn't know what is happening, my mother didn't know what is happening. I think a couple of months later, they took me to a doctor, and the doctor said, surgery, 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 right. And when you are in Colini, where the state of healthcare is so bad, when you hear surgery, what do? You don't say, yes, I'm going to go for surgery. You're going to run away because you've seen people die in medical healthcare. So my mother's like, no, I'm not going to go for this.
However, this didn't go down well with Nthabiseng's father. Nthabiseng was raised as a girl, but says the total shame from the father caused a lot of tension in the parents' marriage.
Earlier on in my teen years, I did blame my father for it, right? But as I grew up, I did not blame my father, right? Because my father was and is a product of our society. And what does society tell us? It tells us that there are two strict boxes, and in this female box, there's XX people with a uterus, with ovaries, and with breasts, and in this one, there's this, and there's no overlap. But my existence as Nthabiseng says there is overlap. There are people in between, beyond and around these two boxes. And that's all my father knew. And that's also all my mother knew. And when they tried to question that as well and went to the medical fraternity, the doctors affirmed those two boxes. And what did the doctors tell my parents? They said, your child is disordered, because, they call it disorders of sexual development. They say it's a condition. They say it's abnormal. So when a parent hears all these words, they start to have negative perceptions towards their children, or to their child. And what is the one... when you hear disorder, what comes into your head? Let us order it. Let us organize it. Let us fix it. And because my mother said, no, it's not the time yet, then of course my father, became a bit negative about me as a child.
Old Nthabiseng Mokoena is intersex. However, she wasn't subjected to genital normalization surgery.
When you're born as an intersex person, the fundamental rule that the medical fraternity has is that it tells you that you are the only one. There's no one else like this. That's why we need to fix you, because you are the only one. So you'll grow up thinking, I am the only one, so I need to hide this. I need to be in the shadows about this because I am the only one. But of course, in the age of the internet, then you start connecting with other intersex people, and then you're affirmed, you realize that actually I'm not the only one. There's thousands and thousands of us out there in the world.
33-year-old Dimakatso Sebidi is also intersex. Doctors advised her parents that in order for her to have a normal life, genital surgery was the only option.
This is one of the things that I wish not the whole world to understand, but then all the medical doctors, midwives, and everybody in the medical industry to understand that when you're born intersex, when you're born with both genders, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And given a chance that if not any surgeries were done to me, and I believe obviously with my parents there were no information, they knew nothing. Whatever they were told by doctors that, oh, if we do 1, 2, 3, she's gonna be fine, you know, or he's gonna be fine, right? I'm going through a whole lot now. My body changes every second. Take a whole lot of money. I have a whole lot of. I just had an operation even on December, just recent, of things that I have no idea of. And it's affecting me now as an individual, as an adult. My partner once said to me, define your private part. I said to her, appendix. She said, why are you saying appendix? Go ahead. I said to her, an appendix is one body feature, one part you have in your body. It's there, but it doesn't have a function. So my vagina is like that. It doesn't have any function. It's just there. The doctors left it there. Nothing. They did all the surgeries. They did everything they thought it was right for me. They're fixing me, whatever the case could have been. But then I'm left with something that doesn't even function.
Dimakatso identifies as lesbian. She says apart from her father having to deal with her being intersex, it's been difficult for him to accept her and her partner's relationship. So she sat him down to ask if she has been a disappointment.
No expecting. Umbona mhlawumbe ke tsotsi lenyalo ke na le bana ba 5. Wa itse ke na le jabu mo side-ing or mandla. Wa itse ke nna. Hallelujah, ngiyabonga baba.
Awuna ntho ke expectileng ko mo mang kapa mang.
Yeah.
Ntho ke mo nkatle I can nka chono nna ke expectile hono oben maybe a doctor.
Yeah.
But his plan is not my plans.
Yeah.
And his ways are not like mine.
Yeah.
Ke ntho ke le ka hlokomela ene ka ibona. Kore ntho ene ke le ka ke sibileng ka bona ke hona hore modimo o tshepile rona jwalo ka batswadi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mo baneng.
Yeah.
Bana ha se ba rona. Bana ke ba modimo.
Yeah.
Mara modimo o tshepile batswadi
Kabana.
ka bana ba bona.
In some communities, intersex infants with ambiguous genitalia do not live. They are seen as bad omens and killed immediately at birth.
Ngazi izitori ezibuhlungu ukuthi bebethatha balahla nasesigangeni kuthiwa izilwane zasendle zodla or baphonswe emfuleni or bashaywe eintabeni bafe ngalondlela leyo. Who does that? Bona abogogo laba abatetisayo. You understand? Engizitholi KZN nalapho bathi usithina sibheka ezulaka lwabaphansi. Akekho umuntu ongazala into enje.
Popin Gumeni is a traditional healer and independent researcher into African medicine. She has conducted research into intersex infanticide in KwaZulu-Natal, Lesotho, Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Eastern Cape.
Kuzo zonke le ndawo engiye kuzo bathi if ingayekwa yenza istrain kumndeni lowo and wonke ama province atsho kanjalo bathi izoyenza ukuthi kungabi nokuthula la ekhaya and bona bathi ukubulala iorder yabantu baphansi ukuthi imbulaleni umntwana ebantwini abayikholelwayo ngalondlela umuntu akabeliever entweni uzokutshela ukuthi uma ngabe kusho abantu abadala mina ngubani and bathi if singambulali lo mntwana iza create ama problem kuwo wonke umuntu la ekhaya bazi babike ukuthi ifana nalento emawele ebukhosini ukuthi eli1 kumele ukuthi lishone because kuthiwa late abantwana bazoba ngobukhosi.
But the killings come at a cost.
Ukhona umama engambona ngathi mangibuza ukuthi mawe asikhulumeke manje kubantu wami mawucabanga wena lento eniyenzayo angithi ubu right or wrong kunjani mawulala wakhala wathi kwamela ngawulala mntana iyakhala ingane endlebeni zakho so wrong mara ikhona it's true.
A study conducted by Northern Cape LGBTI group Legbo between 2008 and 2010 with 90 midwives revealed that out of the 90 interviewed, 88 admitted to killing babies born with unclear genitals. The violation of the rights of intersex people isn't unique to just South Africa. In Zimbabwe, 40 years ago, a set of triplets were born in a rural hospital. One of them was Malume Ngwenya, but his parents took his two brothers and left him behind because he was intersex. At 40, he's still searching for his family. He grew up in an orphanage where they brought him up as a girl and named him Tandiwe, but he identifies as male.
I think I was in grade 4. That's when I had to discover that where I stay, it's not my home. And the people that I used to call my parents, they are not my parents. That's when I had to discover the truth of who I am and how I ended up where I am.
Growing up was difficult.
As time went on, that's when I had to say to myself, this is enough for me. I think let the world just swallow me. I became very, very, very suicidal.
He says the stigma towards intersex people is rampant in Zimbabwe.
I pray that the day when I will die, something would have been done in Zimbabwe, because here in Zimbabwe, people believe that intersex people, it's a taboo. They're goblins. They don't believe that such kind of people, they do exist.
He still hopes to find his family.
I think it's something that is still there psychologically. And if I have a child, I wouldn't want my child to go the same thing, to go through what I went through. Because, I mean, without having your parents' love, it's something that is very painful.
Intersex genital mutilation is defined as surgery carried out on the genitals of newborn babies, infants and children when their external genitals do not look normal enough to pass unambiguously as male or female. The practice has been condemned by the United Nations and the World Health Organization. According to Professor David Siegel, there is always a cause for intersex disorders, but it isn't always clear-cut.
There's a lot of intersex conditions that don't have abnormal genitalia or have minimally abnormal genitalia at birth and only present later on when different parts of your body switch on at different times. For example, going into puberty, different genes get upregulated at the time of puberty and can switch on different enzymes that can now start making your body produce more testosterone than it was supposed to. And then you can start seeing the external effects of that excessive testosterone, and then it comes to the fore. Or, for example, you might be born with an enzyme problem or a hormone receptor problem where you can't recognize one of the hormones your body's had. All these years you've had these hormones, but now typically you'd expect to start growing breasts, having periods and all of those kind of things, and then suddenly those things aren't happening in the normal sequence, and it only shows up at puberty or even later when you're trying to get pregnant.
In its briefing to the UN's Children's Rights Committee in October 2016, South Africa took an unprecedented step when the Department of Social Development conceded that government was aware of the need to stop the practice of intersex genital mutilation. However, the practice still continues.
If we take the journey from the birth onwards, the journey of birth actually happens before you get there. So you've got an expectant mother and father typically who've been expecting something to happen on the day of birth. So I'm going to be delivered a baby boy or a baby girl, and suddenly that all breaks down at the time of delivery. So the doctor comes along, delivers a baby, or the midwife, and has a look and says, And the parents are going to say, do I have a boy or a girl? And they say, you know what, I'm not 100% sure. There's something about the way the genitalia is developed that I'm not 100% certain. I can't give you an answer right now. At that point, we now have a medical emergency. It's not so much a medical emergency that you can die from it, although there are some conditions that, if you don't recognize them at birth, land up putting the baby at increased risk of dying from electrolyte abnormalities and other problems. But it's really an emergency for that family to get a gender identity, have the investigations and the workup done that's going to start answering some of the questions they're going to have, because now they'll have lots of questions. And then it's appropriately assigning a gender to that baby, whether and fully understanding that that gender can change over time. That's probably the most important thing, is do the workup, which means get referred to a specialist who knows a lot about intersex conditions and the workup required, which is usually a pediatric endocrinologist. Unfortunately, lots of people think that this is a surgical condition, and they refer them to surgeons or urologists, and that's a big mistake.
The consequences of intersex genital mutilation on children can be mental, physical, and long-lasting. Activists such as Queer Human Rights Visual Media Organization, Iranti.org, are calling on governments to ban intersex genital mutilation and to allow intersex people to grow up and decide for themselves if they would benefit from medical treatments.
We see like a complete condemnation of female genital mutilation in Africa, and the Middle East and other parts of the world, and a reluctance to take seriously the issue of intersex genital mutilation, which is justified with the same social, psychosocial, cultural kind of reasons, and has no benefit to the health of the child, and it's actually quite damaging.
But what legal recourse do children who by law are under the legal care of their parents have as adults if they were subjected to these genital normalization surgeries? Mpono Furi works for a law firm established to focus on the injustices faced by LGBTI people.
You must remember, in South African civil litigation, if you are to sue someone for personal injury, that claim must be within 3 years from the date of, the occurrence of the act. So you can imagine if a child has been pushed or has been mutilated at the age, actually just immediately after birth, and the child now is 28. If you are to sue your parents, there are technicalities, legal technicalities that one has to face.
I don't know how long I had so much anger towards myself. I've been so much suicidal from primary to high school. My family not even knowing.
I am whole, I am fine the way I am. There is no point for a surgery. Because if I look at it, one of the reasons for a surgery, it's a medical health reason. Am I sick for being intersex? Am I in pain from being intersex? No, I'm not. But there is no point of going through surgery.